Hey guys, Olivia here. Welcome back to the channel. Last week at Aldi, I got this trifle bowl, and so we're going to unbox it. We're going to check it out, see what it looks like, see the quality and everything of it, and then we're going to use it. I am a little excited. I've never made a trifle before, and it might not be a traditional trifle, but we're going to make some sort of layered dessert with it. I've never made a trifle before, which means I am the perfect person to be telling you whether or not this bowl is worth getting, but I'm excited for it. Trifle is kind of, to me at least, a very Christmas summery dessert, and I love it. I want to make like a whole bunch of different types of trifle. I've got a bunch in my head that I think would be really fun, but I didn't have a trifle bowl, so here we go. So this is what we're looking at. So it's not a crazy big trifle bowl. I grew up with like much bigger ones in my house or for my family because there were so many of us, but let's have a look. Ooh, this is nice. You can see it's got kind of like this fluted edging around it, which is probably a good thing for me who's never made a layered dessert. So there's a little bit of distortion that if there's any imperfections, you can't tell as much. But it's got a cute little base. It's made from glass. It's heavy, but it feels pretty sturdy. And I think that would make like a really nice little dessert. It's not huge, which is great because I don't really want to make a huge one. I'm not making it dairy-free, sorry. Since it's my first time and I'm already going to be doing a few things that I've never done before, I figured I'm not going to try and do everything from scratch, but I'm not going to push myself by making everything dairy-free either. But my husband doesn't mind. He's not a big dessert person. He'll probably just munch on the fruit and things, but I think this looks really pretty, and I think I'll still give it a wash before I use it, but I think it's going to make a very nice trifle. The first thing that we need to do for this trifle is to make the sponge layer. You can just buy a sponge cake from the shops, and I was going to, but I just didn't end up doing that. So we're going to make it for today, and we're making a Genoise sponge. I've watched a lot of the Great British Bake Off, so it's definitely inspired me, but we're going to do a bain-marie. And if you don't know what that is, don't worry, I didn't know either. It is essentially, from what I understand, cooking your eggs and sugar over boiling water in a container, a bowl, before you actually start mixing everything together. So we're going to get that water boiling, and in here we're going to add some eggs and some sugar. I'm just going off a recipe I found online, and hopefully this will all turn out. I have also put on the oven to, it says 175, but my oven only works in 10, so we're at 180. I have my sugar already weighed in there, and I'm going to add my eggs. You're supposed to use room temp eggs. I'm assuming that makes the bain-marie process faster. Mine are still cold, so we're going to see if that works. I think it said that we just want to get everything up to 40 degrees Celsius, and then we want to make sure the sugar's dissolved. So I'll get a thermometer so I can check the temperature of everything. I poorly crack these eggs, and then we'll start whisking this in. This next step is to put our bain-maried egg and sugar mixture into a bowl, and we're just going to whip it. Okay, that looks really cool to me. I don't know if that's as far as I should be whipping it, but it looks super fluffy. So I've pre-measured everything here. We're just gonna, I think the goal is to not lose all that air. I think from what I understand, this is what makes it rise and nice and fluffy. We've got to add in our vanilla, which is fine, but then we will add in our melted butter. Now this is my butter mixture. It's said to add a little bit of the mixture to my butter. Definitely not dairy-free. I'm going to pop this into the oven. I'm not making a huge batch of it because it's only going in the trifle dish, but it looks airy. It looks like it's still maintained much of the bubbles that I mixed in. So hopefully this will come out really nice. And once this is done, or cook in the oven, we will get started on our next step. While I wait for that sponge cake to cook in the oven, I'm going to start working on my nectarines. Now, I'm not doing a traditional trifle or a trifle that's traditional to me, something that I grew up with all the time for Christmas. I'm going to make my own special trifle recipe, partly because it's what I have on hand and partly because it's what sounds delicious. So I've got the sponge going, but what I'm going to do is work on the nectarines for a nectarine mousse. So rather than a custard layer, I think I'm going to push myself and try and make a mousse, which I didn't know you could make out of fresh fruit, but I've got all these nectarines that I picked up from Aldi the other week, and they are delicious, and we have been snacking on them pretty hard, but I thought that there's so many of them, and I can eat only so many a day that I might use the rest of them to make what sounds like to be a really delicious and incredible mousse. So I need 400 grams of this. If I don't have enough, I might add some mango because I've got plenty of that, but we'll see. I think the nectarines though, I think I should have enough. So I'm just going to sit here and cut them, and then once the oven's done, I'll pull that sponge out and I'll show you what it looks like. I've just pulled this out of the oven and it looks so pretty. It like has a spongy texture, which is awesome. But like, look at the coloring, which is funny because this is actually a layer. It's not going to be seen, but I'm pretty pleased. I've never made such a nice looking sponge cake. I've also finished with the nectarines, which is great. I did leave the skin on. So that's just a personal preference of mine. Because this is being blitzed up, I don't actually think there's going to be a problem with it. And some of the juice will be used to kind of keep the sponge cake really nice and moist when it goes into the trifle. But we're going to let this cool and then we can start with the next part. Our sponge cake is so thin that it's pretty much already dried up. I did have a little sneaky taste test. I'm actually so pleased. Never made a Genoise sponge before, but it's nice. So what we're going to do now is work on our puree. This is going to be like the base for our mousse from what I understand. So chopped up our nectarines, and I am going to pop them into a pan. We're going to add some lemon juice, just a little bit of sugar, not much. I actually don't think they really need any sugar. They're really sweet nectarines, but we're going to give this a shot and see if we can't soften this down a whole bunch, which will make it easier to puree them into a smooth, like, well, not really a liquid, but just a really smooth consistency. And then once that's done, I'm eyeballing everything. Once that's done, we'll let it cool down and then we'll be able to make our mousse. But I might hold off on that and I might make our jelly first. We'll see. I think traditionally a trifle has like a cake as the base layer, but we're not going to do that. We're actually going to put a jelly layer first, and we're going to do strawberry because that's what I have and that sounds great. I'm going to do the strawberry jelly, get it going. I'm not making it from scratch. I don't know how to do that and I do want to learn. But then after it's set to a certain point, I'm going to cut up some strawberries and sprinkle that in, then let it set completely before doing the next layer, whatever that's going to be. I do want to do 2 layers of jelly though, which might be a little bit too ambitious. And oh, just FYI, this is definitely not going to be done today. This is a trifle that's going to take quite a few hours, not because I'm actively cooking, but because things have to set and do their thing. I don't have 2 packs of strawberry jelly. I have 1 raspberry. So we'll see if I end up doing another layer of strawberry or another layer of jelly, or if I just skip it and add a different component. We'll see. I don't know. Making no promises, but we are going to get the strawberry going so that we can put it in the trifle and let that sit. Before I put the jelly in, I actually turned it upside down and drew a circle because that's the cake outline for me. So that way I don't have to guess, and hopefully that will make a really nice layer. And even though it's got those little ridges, we're just going to guess. It doesn't have to be perfect. We'll do our best. But this has got cold water in it, hot water, everything is dissolved. So we're going to pour it in and then we're going to let it sit in the fridge for a while until it sets to a good point so that when we put the fruit in, it doesn't all sink. It makes the bowl look all red, but I don't know if you can see that, but you can kind of see that's the first layer. So that one, I don't know how long that's going to take to set. It just says until set. I don't know. This is the Woolworths brand jelly, but we'll pop it in and then we'll pull it out. And yes, I did clean it before I put this all in just to make sure there was no dust or anything. So let's hope this all works. So all I'm doing here is just measuring out my gelatin that's going to go into my mousse. We're just blooming it in some cold water. While that's happening, I cooked down my nectarines and blended them up to make them really smooth. And I think the color actually is super, super beautiful, which if it comes to nectarines and peaches and stuff, they get that beautiful like orangey color. And I just think that it's done a really nice job. And you just got to make sure it's super smooth. Because I added those skins in, I really wanted to make sure that you didn't ever get like a chunk of skin, because I think that texturally just wouldn't be the best. Something that you can do with this too is you can actually strain it, which I did not do. A, because I'm lazy and I didn't want to make the extra effort. And B, I tasted it a little bit afterwards. I probably could have added a little bit more sweetener to it, but it was really fine. I think the texture was fine and I really liked the color and I just didn't want to mess with it too much. So all I'm doing is just continuing to make it as smooth as possible. And you could potentially use like a food processor too, which is when I added my gelatin afterwards. It's still slightly warm, so when I mix it all in, it has a chance to just kind of set together. So I can start on my cream. And I'm just mixing this in the KitchenAid, just trying to get them nice stiff peaks so that I can fold in my puree mixture that I made. And you just got to try and make sure you're keeping as much of the bubbles as possible. It's kind of the whole point of it. If you want a light, fluffy mousse, then you need to just make sure that you don't beat all of those beautiful bubbles that you worked hard on. I think I probably should have used all the puree too, just for flavor. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this cutout from the trifle bowl that I drew. I'm going to put it on my cake here. And this is where I've discovered that it's not perfectly aligned, which is totally fine. It's not the same width, whatever. We'll just make sure that when we showcase it, we're showing the nice edge. But we're just going to cut it. I was thinking about potentially doing 2 layers of sponge, but I'm glad I just went with the one because it's not a huge trifle dish. So this is it so far. It's still not perfectly set, but you know what? It's pretty darn set. So the fruit that I put here is all sitting on top, which is good. That means it's setting properly. It looks like my cake is actually too big. So I'm going to just trim it to size and fit it in, and then we'll see what we do next. All right, that works. We got it in the end. So you can see my little cake layer. It's so good. Now, usually at this stage, you would use like a juice to make sure that it moistens into the cake. It makes it stay fresh and doesn't get like dry. We're not going to do that because I don't have any juice. People use alcohol as well, and obviously I'm not going to use alcohol. Not when kids are going to be eating this especially. But I'm going to use this puree because it does have some of the gelatin in it, so it's probably going to set thick anyway, and I would rather use it in this, which potentially all that juice and stuff will soak into it. This could be a terrible idea. This could be the best idea ever. Next up, we're going to try that mousse layer, and depending on how well this mousse layer goes, it will depend on what we do next with it. It's also not the best mousse. I probably could have mixed it better, but I didn't, and I don't mind. I think it's going to be yum anyways. Oh yeah, this is already stiffening into mousse. It told me to put it in the fridge for a little bit just to kind of chill, but it's kind of already become mousse. Oh no. Maybe it's all that gelatin I put in there. Okay, let's see. Let's go for it. There's still so much whipped cream you can see in there that just did not mesh in properly. And we're totally fine with that because it's probably just going to be me and the kids eating this, and maybe some friends when they pop over. But it's pretty set, so we haven't done perfect on that. Totally fine. We don't mind. We're going to smooth it out as best as we can. Try not to lose all of our fluffiness that we earned through the whipped cream. And make a decision. Are we going to add in another layer of jelly? And you know what? I think my answer is going to be yes. So there is our mousse layer. And you can see there's enough space. I think we should do another jelly layer. And then even if it comes right up to the top, we will add in like our whipped cream on top and it'll look really cool. So I think we're going to do the raspberry jelly. Look at our layers so far. There's a bit of a gap there, but that is turning into something pretty. You can even see the berries. So far, this fluted edge, I'm loving because I'm far from perfect when it comes to putting these layers together. That's definitely forgiving. So I underestimated how difficult it is to make trifle. I probably made it harder on myself by making the sponge myself and making a mousse instead of a custard. and just thinking, I've got this in the bag. I have watched Great British Bake Off a whole bunch and seen people make mistakes and thought, come on, it's so obvious. I understand you're in a time crunch and there's the added pressure, but it's not that hard. And I'm here to tell you that I would not be able to be on the Great British Bake Off, A, because I'm not British, but B, because I'm not that good of a baker. Let me show you the trifle. And maybe you're one of those people who was watching me make this earlier and thought, no, Libby, you're making a mistake. You're doing this wrong. And I'm so sorry I did not listen to you because, well, I regret it now looking at it. The whole point of a trifle is to be aesthetically pleasing. Well, I mean, taste good as well. I feel like that's a very important part of any dessert, but that's a given. A trifle, though, is about presentation, about beautiful layers in a beautiful bowl. The bowl, got that. The Aldi bowl I actually quite like. The trifle that I've made, well, that has left much to be desired. So the last thing you saw me do was to put that raspberry jelly on top. And this is what happened, which maybe you knew was going to happen, but it is all sunk through. I thought this was going to be a review of the trifle bowl to show you how it looks, how gorgeous all the layers can be. It's a review of how bad I am at trifles, which is totally fine. This is what life is like. Look at these layers. Look at them. They're atrocious. We have right here our beautiful strawberry jelly, which is my best layer because it settled first and I actually did the right thing. Then we have what's supposed to be a nice sponge, but you could probably see it better from this angle, that it's got like a purplish tinge, and that is because all of the raspberry jelly that I put on top has sunk through the mousse. It's incorporated partially into the mousse, through my puree, straight to my sponge. Then we have, well, don't even see it on some of these. I'm trying to find the best one. Maybe right here is the best. So, strawberry jelly. Combination of raspberry jelly and my sponge, thin layer of puree, and then my raspberry jelly nectarine mousse. I can't even put whipped cream on top of this to hide it because it's a see-through dessert. See through the layers. Oh my goodness. I thought this would be so much easier. That has only made me more determined to make a better trifle. So this is not the last we have seen of trifles, but this is a record of the first time I've made trifles, and I'm really bad at it. And we're going to be so much better. This is not any review really of the Aldi bowl or any indication of the quality of the Aldi bowl. In fact, it's highlighted how terrible I am at trifles, which I think is probably a tick in its favor because trifles all about what you can see, and what you can see is a disaster. So if you're really good at trifles, I imagine that this would look really beautiful. And if you're really bad, then everybody's going to see it. What I think I did wrong was my placement of the sponge. I also think that they do like the sponge rolls for a trifle. At least that's what I'm familiar with. So we might do that. Another thing is I wasn't super prepared for this, which is why I did the nectarine mousse instead of a traditional custard. So I probably should have had things in place ready, prepared beforehand, and had a better idea of my layers and my flavor combinations. And also I've specifically bought jelly and things for it. So a lot of things went wrong and they're my fault. What we're going to do now, though, is we're going to taste test this, and we're going to see if it tastes far better than it looks. Maybe that's my thing. Maybe I make desserts that are ugly, but they taste amazing. So we're going to give this a try. But don't let my poor trifle ability stop you from picking this up from Aldi. I actually kind of liked this trifle, even though the layers didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, and I used ingredients that I had on hand and I needed to use up versus anything else. Look at this spoonful. I think it actually turned out kind of nice. My regret would be the mousse. It's a nice mousse, don't get me wrong. It's nice and light and airy and fluffy, but I don't think I will make it again. I think I just prefer to eat nectarines by themselves. I really liked, though, how well everything set. I think that's a big tick for me. Everything set really nice. I didn't add too much gelatin to my mousse. When you eat everything, all the components together, it tastes really nice. I really liked the jelly mixing in with that sponge cake. I don't know why. It's just added a really nice tang to it, but the nectarine, I think, is probably my weakest point. The rest of it, I didn't make anything else except the sponge. It tastes nice, don't get me wrong, but yeah, the nectarine, I don't think that will be something I will incorporate again. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Well, this is a channel where we don't show perfection and we don't show you how to. You just get to watch me fumble around and hope for the best. And today was a bit of a fail, but in the end, it was still a lot of fun. Definitely not the end of this trifle adventure. We are going to be amazing trifle makers by the end of this summer season. That's our goal. We've got a goal. I really appreciate you watching this. Make sure you're subscribed because this is real life. This is my real life. This is what I show you. I do grocery hauls, major fails when it comes to baking and cooking. Love to be in the garden, even though I'm not a great gardener. It's just me kind of blindly doing my best, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and let me know if you have any amazing tips and tricks when it comes to trifles, because I need them. Also, flavor combinations, because if I'm going to make a whole lot of trifles, I want to make sure I'm making a nice different range of them. And maybe I'll get so good at them I can give that dairy-free one a shot. I don't know. We'll see how we go. Otherwise, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.